I came into the world in 2003, which, not to brag, made my childhood a pretty good time to become a Thomas fan. Okay, I mean, new episodes of the show were kinda but it was the prime of DVDs, and Classic Thomas was still a ready available piece of media, with home media releases still on store shelves. The toys were extremely good too. Tomy Motorized and Wooden Railway were still kicking, though I did miss out on the Ertl diecast range. Now, I'm not an Ertl doubter. I mean, the scaling sucks and the coupling system sucks, but they're good models on their own. I have a small collection I acquired when I was a little bit older, but they weren't the diecast that I grew up with. Like many 2000s kids, I grew up with Take-Along. Take-Along started in 2002 as the successor to Ertl in the US. Take-Along used to have a bad rep for replacing Ertl, but as the Take-Along generation grew up, it became more beloved. The gimmick and namesake of Take-Along is that they were portable sets with spots to store your track and engines so that you could take them along. Get it? It's a pretty cool concept for a little kid's toy, as they're often moved around between parents, grandparents, sitters, etc. It was also probably the perfect toy line for children of divorce. Comment below if you were a child of divorce who played with Thomas Take-Along playsets across your separate parents' houses. I wasn't a child of divorce. Only time I had to take my toys somewhere was at Grandma and Grandpa's house for fun times. Hooray! But anyways, this made the line pretty popular. The engines were quite nice too. While I don't have any new in box, if there ever was a Thomas range I'd want to collect the boxes for, it'd be Take-Along. They had these awesome boxes that let you see both sides of the item. They also came with a collector's card that were in the shape of a train ticket. They made each item feel special. They had these nice little promo photos that were typically from the model series. Or sometimes, if it wasn't a character or thing that was in the show, it'd just be the toy on a model backdrop. I mean, like, look at Coldy here. I remember getting Coldy, but I didn't know the books existed as a kid, and my little kid brain couldn't differentiate the toys and the real thing, so I remember just looking at Coldy's character card and thinking I'd missed an episode or something. I knew he was a mountain engine because of the character card, and I figured since he had two faces, he had to be related to Mighty Mac, so I remember thinking I had to check the Engine and Escapades DVD to try and find him in there somewhere. And, those episodes are kinda boring. Except for, like, the Madge one, I guess. Sometimes they'd also do some crazy 2000s photo bash amalgamation of a toy and the real thing. Like, look at the breakdown train here. What on earth is this? They could have just used the regular photo of the breakdown train. It's not that different looking. And then there's some that did exist in the show, but are toy cutouts for some reason. I guess for Oliver and Daisy, they hadn't been on screen in a while, so it wasn't as easy to find a promo photo at the time. But someone like Stanley? Come on, he was literally a new character. I had a pretty decent sized collection as a kid, and a lot of my childhood memories are with Take-Along. And I have a couple survivors from my childhood collection as well. I even keep my childhood Percy and a Thomas in a baseball case I had as a kid. Cause, you know, I certainly wasn't playing baseball. Or at least, I wasn't very good at it. Instead, I liked Thomas. There's so many memories I have with these. I played with them in my parents' basement a lot, and in 2008 there was a huge flood, and I remember having to get them all fished out by hand. For some reason, I specifically remember my dad or someone handing me Murdoch from the water. I think I remember Murdoch very well because I didn't have any other toys of Murdoch at the time, so he was kind of special in my mind. And also, Murdoch is just a cool design character, and that 5 New Engine in the Shed song and like marketing thing was probably the first political campaign my brain was ever exposed to. And completely unrelated to Take-Along, but also during this great flood of '08, I remember being gifted a Tomy Arthur, which I also still own. Man, I need to get rid of some stuff. I remember it because I was given it at my great-grandparents' house where we were staying while our house was powerless. I think it was like a cheer-up gift or something like that. I was also a fan of Arthur because he has a cool design and, you know, he's one of the 5 New Engines in the Shed. I really wanted a Take-Along Arthur too. And I remember I had a cousin who had one. And that made me really upset because I was a way bigger Thomas fan than him. But look, I have Take-Along Arthur now. My life's complete. I wonder what my cousin's doing. Probably going to work and getting married. Oh, anyway. Also in that same summer of '08, my family went on vacation to Myrtle Beach, and I brought a bunch of Take-Alongs with me. I'm pretty sure I literally brought the carry case with me, which I also had 2 of as a kid. I don't really remember what family vacation it was, but I'm pretty sure it was this one. I had a huge argument with my mom about how many trains I was bringing. And on one of our beach days, I was playing with Thomas on the sand. You know, making sand tracks and all that. And then I look up from making all those sand tracks, and I'm lost. It was a pretty busy summer day there, and I had strayed just a little too far away from our umbrella. Not to mention that I probably could definitely not remember what that umbrella looked like. So yeah, I ended up lost on this busy beach, which is not really the place you want to lose your 5-year-old son. Because, you know, there's a whole big ocean that could kill him. Yeah, it was a whole ordeal, and I made a couple people pretty scared. But it really wasn't my fault. Thomas was distracting me, so blame him. As I got a bit older, I got pretty destructive. At some point, I started viewing these as Hot Wheels, since they were also diecast. And Hot Wheels had very crash-based playsets, so there were some injuries. I also played with them a lot outside. I mean, they're called take-alongs, and I went outside, so you know, I gotta take them along outside. Rest in peace, my take-along Daisy that is in a pile of dirt somewhere. If you're wondering why this Thomas looks so bad, it's because I just left him outside for like multiple years. Oliver here was a victim of a bottle rocket launch pad that me and my brother were playing with. We were playing with it on our parents' concrete slab. Did anyone else's family used to have a concrete slab in their backyard, or is that just a me thing? Yeah, anyways, so this bottle rocket launcher is where Oliver got this nice little dent in his funnel. Now even back then I knew Oliver was a pretty cool character, and I kinda felt bad I had just broke him. But hey, look, I got a new Oliver, so everything worked out. Yay, I'm the best. Speaking of bends and trains, my childhood lady always just had the back of her cab bent inwards. It was just always like this. So much so that like I just thought it came like that, because I never knew how this ever happened. I thought they were like intentionally hiding her firebox, since you could see the firebox on the tender engines, but you could never really see on any of the tank engines since their cabs were a lot harder to see into. On the subject of a Magic Railroad character, I want to talk about Diesel 10. Take-Along had my favorite Diesel 10 toy as a kid, since it was the only one whose claw could spin all the way around and lift up. My childhood Diesel 10 is now long gone, but I remember that I managed to somehow give him a crack on one of his windows. I'd lose track of my Diesel 10 all sorts of times since he was a favorite of mine, and I remember one time I found him on top of my dad's toolbox, and after that there was a period of my childhood where anytime I couldn't find him, I'd always check up there to see if he was there. And even when I lost him for good, I still checked up there every once in a while. Another reason he was a favorite of mine was because it was the only toy range that had both Lady and Diesel 10 in. You see, I had a Tomy Lady, but no Tomy Diesel 10, and I had a Wooden Railway Diesel 10, but no Wooden Railway Lady. So Take-Along was the only one I could remake the chase scene in. Before I got this new default Diesel 10, I found this extremely weird Big Happy Dumb Guy face variant they released for Calling All Engines. Why did they think any kid would like that? Oh well, at least it was just a variant back then. And while Diesel 10 was my favorite in the range as a kid, honestly, he's not so much anymore. He's so short. This is so he could have his claw and also fit in the playsets. But his face is oh so tiny because of it. And it kinda reminds me of like a Goomba from Mario. I don't know. I get why this sacrifice was made, but it just kinda sucks. It especially stings because later on in diecast lines, they'd begin to make exceptions on play functions for the ease of creating characters. But those exceptions that were made were for characters like Fiery Flynn. And I don't have it anymore, but I used to have the oil tanker, and I wanted to take the oil out of it so badly. I'm pretty sure I ripped off the roof piece just to try and get into it. I did this with the jelly bean tanker too. You can tell by the lack of the roof. I still got the jelly bean tanker at least, but I still don't know if these are real jelly beans. One of my favorite take-alongs though was Percy. Yeah, just the standard Percy. Percy is one of my favorite characters, but there's just something about the take-along Percy that I like, and I think it's the face. It's based on the promotional art that dominated the 2000s marketing. Since Thomas was a live-action model-made show, it was easier to represent the franchise with these little vector art pieces. So that way they wouldn't have to make cutouts from photos of the props to go on boxes every time. This art was pretty much the public representation of Thomas before the CGI series, and it was what a lot of manufacturers referenced instead of the on-screen models. So if you ever wondered why the original Bachman Thomas models look so weird, this is why. The expensive model trains are based on two-dimensional artwork instead of, the reference photos from the actual show. I don't know why they did that, or why they haven't done an updated version in like 23 years. This artwork was the basis for Take-Along's main characters too. I've always loved Percy's face in this art style. It's got nothing on the prop faces, but it's still so funny looking. It's like an inquisitive face, like he's realizing something and going, "Oh."
"Oh," said James. "Oh, where's Percy?"
Of all the toy lines based on this art, Take-Along captured that expression the best. He just looks so curious. There's another reason why Take-Along Percy always stuck with me, and that's how I got him. I got Percy through one of my favorite sets as a kid. I'm pretty sure it was a Christmas gift because I think I can almost remember the box near a tree. But one year, I was gifted the giant Take-Along playset, Thomas and Percy's Carnival Adventure. This set was one that defined my childhood. It was released around the time with the DVD Carnival Capers on store shelves. This DVD was the launch of two characters that ended up being mainstays, Rocky and Rosie. They lasted all the way till the end of the series. While we don't know if Rocky's coming back, Rosie is now a main character in the new series. Although honestly, her character didn't amount to much outside of toys and marketing until this current iteration of Thomas. But I'm glad she's finally getting some real attention. Well, as far as we know for right now. I also just realized that this DVD has the episode where Sir Handel returns to the series, as well as the f***ing Busy Bee James episode. You know, that Busy Bee gift that just never stopped giving? Yeah, so this was a pretty significant release. Thomas went all in on this Sodor Carnival theming in the merchandise. It was kinda everywhere for a while. It's pretty much a bash of circus, fair, and carnival aesthetics. I think it's a fitting theme for Thomas and friends to indulge in. I mean, circus trains are like a thing, I guess. I don't mind it. Personally, I'm pretty nostalgic towards fairs and carnivals too. It makes some fun rolling stock, and some pretty good vibes as well. I kinda wish they would have run this theme back at some point in the last 20 years. Like, imagine if one of the Brenner era specials that were all themed around some other non-train thing was themed around a carnival happening on Sodor. That could have been fun. But back to this set. It was probably the biggest thing to come out of this brief carnival stint. I'm pretty sure this is also the biggest take-along set there ever was. And as a kid, that's what made it so cool. It was tall with this giant hill and spiral track to send your engines down. Unfortunately, like all my sets, I lost this one to time. I do have a track piece from it, and the Percy that I mentioned. Perhaps this Thomas is, but I'm not certain. The set has been long gone from my collection. That is until I found one.
We found one. A real one.
Every once in a while, I browse Facebook Marketplace to see what's around me. Typically, I look for wooden railway lots, since that's more of my main thing. But I'll see what other Thomas stuff there is too. A couple years ago, I actually found most of my displayed Take-Along collection. It was a pretty legendary find, considering how badly damaged Take-Along secondhand can be. Early May, I was scrolling for Thomas items, and I came across a listing for a complete Carnival Adventure playset. And it looked like it had everything in good condition. And there was only a scratch or two on the Thomas and Percy that I didn't even need since I own a couple of those now. Best of all, it was only $19 and $17 in shipping. I, of course, bought it. Did I need it? Probably not. But when was I going to get this complete classic toy set from my childhood again? Now, the box was included in the listing, but unfortunately the seller couldn't get it to fit. So although I would have loved to have the box, and I low-key want the picture to be a poster on my wall, I went ahead and told her to trash it. But everything else got shipped to me, and then it finally came. So let's do a review. I assembled the set, but I did have one slight problem. I was missing the 1-inch track piece. I realized some of the pieces were extras, likely from other sets, and I did get a second 2-inch track piece, so I just subbed that in. It's not a completely perfect set because of that, it's a little tight around the edges, but it still works well enough. And honestly, assembly was kinda difficult in some areas. I mean, I was missing the one piece, so I won't count that, but this slope was kinda confusing at times. You gotta follow the instructions with these pieces because they're all different, and you gotta make sure they're facing the right way. This also came with these little green pieces, and I was confused about where they go. I figured they went up the hill since they were green, but it wasn't clear where, and the instructions didn't say it either. And it's not on the box, or on any of the artwork. I finally figured it out through finding unofficial images of the set. They go here. They hold the track to the tower, so that way you can basically pick it up as one unit. I am missing pieces 1 and 7 though, so it's not a perfect pickup. I almost wonder, because these aren't on any of the images, if this was a late addition regarding the concerns about how the set holds together. It's very tall and long for a take-along set. It takes up the whole length of this card table I have. Let's look at it bit by bit. You got this huge hill you can send your engines up. I feel like it's supposed to resemble the ascending part of a roller coaster. You can also send engines flying down the hill. Now, this is pretty prone to derailments, which are fun for play, but I don't really want to damage my take-alongs too much. I mean, they're all damn near or over 20 years old at this point. But look, I got this Mattel stuff that'll probably never be worth anything, so... Wow, that was so cool. Anyways, when you send the engine down, you have this guardrail curve here on this Carnival orange track to stop them from flying off the rails. Behind it though is this large cardboard mural of a carnival scene with artwork of the railway. These are other take-along sets, like the engine wash, the bridge pieces, and the barrel depot and shipping company set. There's also cutouts of other take-along engines, like Gordon, Percy, Molly, and Emily. I actually didn't own Molly or Emily as a kid, so this is how I knew about their take-alongs existing. With Emily, actually, that same cousin who had Arthur also owned Emily too. But look, I have Emily now, so everything worked out. Except for my career. This piece is some decent art of the franchise's past, but honestly, it's not really necessary in my opinion. This one is already folded, and it doesn't really fit in nicely. It just looks a little tacky, I guess. It's a decent aesthetic piece, but it just was not really needed. I think if they removed it and added something like the bunting stickers on this guardrail here, it would have been completely fine. It's just whatever though. I could just go without it, and I bet you this was the first thing I lost as a kid. Now when you bring your engine up the hill, there's a slight slope down to a little bumper on the slide piece. And now we're at the centerpiece of this set. I've always thought this is supposed to be a representation of the slide on the Carnival Capers DVD cover, and the same slide shown in Percy and the Carnival, and, you know, all the other Carnival episodes in the hit era. Though obviously for this toy, they turned it into a slide for trains rather than human children. Wait a minute, isn't a slide for trains just a roller coaster? It's decorated with the Sodor Carnival logo and bunting. I also like the little detail of the golden top hat. I always like the Topham themed stuff on Sodor. It's kind of funny, even if it does do some reputational damage to my man. So you press the big red button on top and your train goes spiraling down. Fun! It also plays 3 different sound effects each time you press the button. Not gonna lie, that last one that's the busy song from Calling All Engines, that one's pretty cool. After the engine runs down the spiral, they go through the funhouse, which is a little house-shaped portal with streamers. Kinda reminds me of the engine wash, and car washes in general, I guess. Then they speed past, and the goal is to hit the little bullseye piece at the end. Now, no engine is gonna knock it all the way around, but it's a fun goal to hit. The piece comes with a special track with flattened sleepers for it to go under, so that way it doesn't raise up the rails. Lastly on this set is the little circle in the middle. It allows 2 things. One is a spot for your engine not on the slide to wait, and two is to allow a point of connection for more track and other playsets. The instructions actually give you a nice potential layout combining a bunch of take-along sets from the time. It also really illustrates just how big this set is. It's very much the action-packed set piece at the end of the railway. I also like that it has you go under the big hill instead of it just being a normal switch off to the other side. I do think this flat cardboard piece is kinda whatever, just like the other cardboard piece. This one's a little worse though, because it's just flat on the ground. Ah well. I also don't get this roadside stop sign they included. One, because it's a stop sign for cars. Two, because it's just in the middle of this circle and not near the switch. I feel like it should go, like, here. Oh. This also could have been a good opportunity for them to introduce a signal, but whatever. So here's some things I noticed while playing with this. Percy does way better than Thomas. Percy will go through the bullseye every time. Thomas, I can't get him to the bullseye. Even if I take out the fun piece that slows the engine down just a little bit, he still doesn't hit it. And of course, let's bring in some of my collection and see how they fare. At the fun fair. What? The lighter the engine, the better. So that means rolling stock doesn't do too hot in this spiral. A lot of it will still make it down, but it definitely doesn't hit the target. Though weirdly heavier engines like Duck and Arthur can do the spiral pretty well and hit the target, and go pretty far. I'm not a physicist. Someone explain that. The longer the engine or rolling stock piece, the more difficult it is to make it down. Gordon and Henry will make it down alright most times, but someone like Murdoch really struggles to make it down. Diesel 10 absolutely cannot do this set. He's too low to the ground. Same goes for the Chinese Dragon. Their wheels are just too small and they sit too low. And it's unfortunate for the Dragon too, because he's in the episode Percy and the Carnival. And I don't know how or why, but somehow he just looks freakier in this episode. Which is weird considering his other episode he's in is one where he's supposed to be really scary. I think it's because they made him move. That looks, like, awful. Anyways, I tried some narrow gauge engines. Skarloey having 3 very small wheels makes him the absolute worst at this set. He'll just fall out of it. But luckily the episode Rheneas and the roller coaster can become real here. Of all in my collection, Billy is the one who did extremely well. He's super lightweight, but still just enough to make it down. Good job to Billy, I guess. This set has one flaw that doesn't really bother me as a collector who owns it now, but it's a notable one nonetheless. So you know how this is a take-along set? Yeah, it doesn't really take along too well. Like I said with the whole green clips thing earlier, it doesn't really stay together too well. Now the spiral does have a handle, and the base has spots you can put engines and cars in, but there's nowhere for all this track to go. You can just play with the spiral without the hill and just launch the engines by hand, but still, what do you do with all this track? It makes total sense why this was probably the ultimate piece loser. I know for a fact this is the reason I ended up losing this set as a kid. I don't think this is a hot take, but I think Take-Along got a little sloppy with the whole portable railway aspect as it went on. Same with its successor, Take and Play. Another Take-Along set that I had was the Lights and Sounds Morgan's Mine. It's very similar to Carnival Adventure with it being a spiral set, and it shares the same flaw with not really having a way to store all the track. At least with this one though, it is made to just launch the engines from the top of the spiral, so you can pretty much just put it anywhere and it'll look fine. It's a little funny actually, so in the commercial you see the little kid pick it up, but then it just quickly cuts away to hide the fact that he just left the entire rest of the set behind. All that being said though, this is still a pretty awesome set, and I'm glad I had it as a kid, and it's kinda cool to own now as well. I'm not going to have it up on display or anything, but it's just kind of fun to run all my engines down it. Now, it's not your typical Thomas set, at least for 2007 standards. This isn't something you'd see in the canon reality of the show, even at the time of the hit era. But I think what makes this set work, and some of the other gimmicky sets at the time, is that this is the exception in the toy world. All the other sets at this time were industrial-esque play sets. 2 of these sets on the cardboard art are literally called the Shipping Center and Barrel Loader. You know, exciting stuff like shipping and barrels. I know this set doesn't have much for like a Thomas fan making a series or building a realistic layout, but man, this was a cool toy as a kid. And I don't have a sophisticated reason for you. It's just a fun toy. Sometimes a train going down a hill is just all you really need. It's an addition to your railway, and it gives you a good amount of track too. I remember I loved using these risers as just a generic hill. If you had this set as a kid, please share any memories you had with it below. It's honestly cool hearing about everyone's different experiences with Thomas toys, especially the ones that I also grew up with. I kinda think Take-Along is still an underexposed part of Thomas's history. Definitely for reasons that make sense, though. The fandom only switched up on Ertl a bit in recent years, but it was considered the definitive superior diecast line for quite a long time. And then Take-Along was eclipsed by its own successor, Take and Play. Not to mention Trackmaster starting a couple years after it and becoming Thomas's probably most successful toy line ever. And then Wooden Railway was also still pumping in its prime. I think it's safe to assume those two just sold more. I also don't think Take-Along is a perfect toy line by any means. Rolling stock was really lacking, with mostly focus on doing gimmicky cargo, and they were lacking a lot of the common on-screen things. There were really only a few troublesome trucks to get out there, and infamously there were no express coaches. They also dent and scratched very easily, which just isn't great for a small kid's toy, and makes it kinda hard to find good models in the current day. The magnets also don't hold too well either. It's still cool though, and I like it. While Wooden Railway is still my main focus in collecting, Take-Along is probably my second, as well as Take and Play too. Maybe I'll talk about that one day. I still have a couple sets just lying around. While I'm not actively seeking Take-Along out at the moment, I am hoping to one day get a Toad, a Donald and Douglas, a Ben to go with my Bill, and an Airy to go with my Bert. I'd also like to get some more of the face variants too. Those are neat. And that's about all I have to say about Take-Along. It's a highlight of the franchise to me, and my life, I guess? And may God rest their souls. Okay, wait, I think I'm a little late to saying that eulogy. Oh, wait, I didn't tell the story about how one time as a kid I was at Target and the only Take-Along I could get was Sir Tom Matt's car, and that was really disappointing to me because it was just a faceless, stupid-looking car. Well, I hope you enjoyed whatever the last 20-some minutes was. I really didn't think this would be the video I would make next, but it's okay. This just kind of spawned out of finding the whole Carnival Adventure set. It really sent me down this Take-Along rabbit hole of sorts. And I'm glad it did, this was kind of fun to do. But what are next, you may be wondering? Well, I am currently scripting the next Sodor Anthology of Interest. As I said, I'm going to be taking those one at a time in the background, and I'm also making a couple more videos like this as well. They'll probably be different and more defined as I go along. We'll see what happens. But with that, I also have an announcement. I have a Patreon now. Paying work for me is, scarce, at least for now. And I like making these, but me being only one guy means sometimes it'll take time. So this'll help tide it over. I'm gonna try and be different from some other Thomas Patreons I've seen. And starting off, I have some exclusive opportunities available by subscribing to the $20 tier. Give it a read through if you're interested. Or any tier really, it'd all help me greatly. This is all new to me, so we'll see how it evolves as we go. And well, that's all. Bye!